Hi, dear students and everyone on this channel. Before we continue, remember to hit the subscribe button at Apex Biology. Subscribe to my channel so that we can get to know how you can easily succeed in passing your certificate examination. Now, we are still on our series of questions on how and why answers are important in examination. Why? We are treating WAEC May-June 2017 objective questions. As I told you in the other video, these are series of questions. It's not just about the quantity of question, it's about understanding why your answer should be correct and how to give the answer. Because one answer here can also trigger other questions that can help you to answer additional questions on those options that are given. Now, which of the following organism cannot exist freely on its own? This was question number 3 in the objective of May-June 2017 WAEC. It was an objective question. Giving the answer directly, you have to understand the question. Which of the following organism cannot exist freely on its own? That means that it cannot survive on its own. It depends on another organism for its survival. Which one of them depend on another organism for its survival? An organism that depends on another organism for its survival will be a parasite. A parasite that engages in parasitic nutrition, meaning that it will live in another organism to obtain food from that organism called its host. And in order to get food, that host will be suffering, that organism will be benefiting. That means that that organism cannot exist freely on its own. If you look at the list here, there is no doubt about it. The answer is going to be paramecium. A plasmodium. Plasmodium is the correct answer to this question because it is a parasite. It cannot exist freely on its own. Can you think of other organisms that cannot exist freely on their own that are also like plasmodium in their behavior? Definitely you can think of trypanosoma that causes sleeping sickness, transmitted by the vector called tsetse fly. They cannot exist on their own. Remember another parasite that is called Onchocerca volvulus. It cannot exist on its own. It is transmitted by a vector that is called black fly that causes river blindness. Plasmodium in this case cannot exist on its own because it is a parasitic organism that actually is transmitted by a vector called the female Anopheles mosquito. So that is the answer to the question. Now, when you look at these other ones, which of the following organisms cannot exist freely on its own? The answer, of course, is Plasmodium. Why are these ones not the answer? They are not the answer because if you look at my previous video, as I said, subscribe to Apex Biology to see what I said about Chlamydomonas, what I said about Paramecium, and what I said about amoeba. I drew the diagram there and I explained it. Subscribe to my channel to get additional information. Now, what we are going to show you is that this Chlamydomonas, as you see, it is actually a unicellular organism that lives in water that I presented in one of my videos that has this kind of structure there. All right. It has that ability of having the means to carry out and make food on its own. And what it uses to make food on its own is called the chloroplast. So it can exist on its own. It can even store food in a structure that was called pyrenoid, if you refer to that other video. That is Chlamydomonas. So it can exist on its own. Amoeba, again, is another organism that is so popular. You see that it does not have a definite shape. But one thing about amoeba is that it has these projections that were referred to as pseudopodia. The pseudopodia in amoeba can allow amoeba to capture its prey, so it can feed with it, so it exists on its own. Is that okay? So amoeba allow the organism to move around and also to feed. So the moment you come across amoeba, it has this pseudopodia for movement and also for feeding. You see, these are things that can be used in other objective questions. Now, paramecium that I just showed you from number 1 and 2 of May-June 2017 exam, you already know that paramecium is an organism that has this slippers shape. And we learned now that it has two types of contractile vacuole, the one at the anterior end and the one at the posterior end. What does it use for movement? It uses what is called cilia. If you recall in my previous video that I presented, subscribe to at Apex Biology, you will see that it has a structure here called the oral groove. The oral groove that paramecium used to take in food. That food goes into its gullet. So that means now that this Chlamydomonas can exist on its own, amoeba can exist on its own, paramecium can exist on its own, but Plasmodium cannot exist on its own. Rather, it is a parasite. So the mode of nutrition of Plasmodium is parasitic. The mode of nutrition of paramecium is holozoic. The mode of nutrition in amoeba is also holozoic. But interestingly, the mode of nutrition in Chlamydomonas is also autotrophic, meaning that it can make its own food because it has chloroplast for photosynthesis. This is what we want you to take note of as we answer this question. So that is why if in the objective question, if it comes up, which of the following organisms cannot exist freely on its own, the correct answer definitely is Plasmodium. Remember, subscribe at my channel at Apex Biology so that you can get more information on how you can tackle this question. Very easy to pass your exam. Go ahead and continue to subscribe at Apex Biology. Hit that subscribe button